Carly had been filming urban exploration content for about 4 months when this happened. She built a small following, a few thousand subscribers, mostly through solo content, abandoned homes, empty factories, and an old shopping mall. She had a natural ease on the camera and an eye for the kind of detail that makes a place feel haunted before anything actually happens. Kyle and Devin were her friends from her hometown. Both were 24. Both had done explorations with her before. Low-stakes stuff. Daytime mostly, with locations that she already scouted. Kyle was the one who found the hospital. Devin was the one who said they should do it at night. Carly told me that Devin always pushed her to do something further. That was just Devin. Whatever the thing was, he needed it to be more. The hospital had been closed since 1963. It operated for just under 30 years. It was a state-ran psychiatric facility in the Ozark Mountains of southern Missouri. It was the kind of institution that existed in an era before anyone examined too closely what was going on inside of places like that. Patient records from the facility were destroyed in a record purge in 1978. What remains suggested that a population between 80 and 100 patients were there at any given time. The closure was described in state records as no longer fit for habitation. Devin found a ritual online, not on a forum, and not on a horror enthusiast site. He'd been looking for a specific type of ritual, one with documented results. Carly says that he'd been talking about it for weeks before the hospital trip ever came together, like the two things were always going to connect. She described it as a printed document, several pages that he kept in a folder. She didn't read it before that night, but she said that she wishes that she had. Not because she believed that she could stop it. She doesn't think that she could have. But because she would have understood sooner what was happening when it started. It was a combination of a standard Ouija board and a summoning ritual. Certain words to be spoken aloud at specific points with specific positioning. Carly told me, "I thought it was a bit. I thought it was just Devin doing what Devin does, making everything bigger, trying to scare me for content. I had my camera, and I was going to film them doing something ridiculous in this creepy building, and it was going to be great for my channel. But what ended up happening, it wasn't a bit, and it wasn't something fun. It's something that I'll have to remember for the rest of my life." They entered the building at approximately 11 p.m. on a Friday in October. Carly had her camera running from the moment that they approached. That's her process. She documented everything from the arrival. The footage begins with the three of them in the parking lot. It had mostly been reclaimed by the entire forest. You can see the building behind them, even on the camera screen, even knowing what you're looking at. There's still something about that building that makes you not want to look directly at it. Kyle tries the main entrance. It was locked and rusted shut. Devin finds a ground floor window on the east side that had been forced open before. They went in, one at a time. The first 20 minutes of footage from the inside is genuinely impressive urban exploration content. Carly has good instinct. She captures the collapsed ceiling in the main corridor, the patient rooms that still contain the iron bed frames, and the nurse's station with its shattered glass partition and the cabinet doors still hanging open. 60 years of abandonment preserved in a specific way that only completely forgotten places are preserved. not decayed so much as suspended. Devin narrates in a loud voice, and Kyle plays along. Carly keeps the camera steady and moving. For the first 20 minutes, it's exactly what she thought it was going to be. And then Devin found the room that he was looking for. It was in the basement, a room that appeared to have been used for treatments. It had a drain in the center of the floor and restraint hardware on the walls. There was also a table that had been bolted to the floor. Devin said, "This is it." He'd been looking for that specific room. He knew that it was there. Carly told me that she asked him how he knew, but he never answered. He set the Ouija board on the table. He took out his folder and looked at both of them and said, "Stay in the circle. Don't break the circle for any reason. And whatever it says, don't stop until I say stop." Kyle looked over at Carly. She looked into the camera, and then she turned it around and kept filming. The ritual lasted approximately 4 minutes according to the timestamp on the footage. I'm not going to describe the specific words that Devin read aloud. I made that decision after watching the footage, and I'm standing by it. What I will tell you is that the board responded immediately, within the first 2 minutes, and that the responses were not some random letters. They were coherent and specific, as if whatever they were talking to could talk back. Devin kept going. At the 3-minute mark, Kyle made a sound. Not a word, just a weird noise. Carly swung the camera over to him. This is where I'll include her written testimony. Carly wrote, "Kyle was fine at first, and then he wasn't. There was no in-between. One second he was sitting there, and the next second his nose was bleeding, and he was looking at his hands like he didn't even know what they were. And then I said his name, and he looked at me. His eyes were still his eyes. He was still in there, but something else was in there with him. Like someone or something had moved into a house that was already occupied." Devin kept reading. I told him to stop, and he kept reading like he couldn't even hear me. And then Kyle started speaking. Not English, not any language that I recognized, just sound that was shaped like words, but they weren't words. They were coming out of him continuously, like he wasn't even breathing between them. His mouth was moving, but the sound was too fast for his mouth. That's the only way I can describe it. I stood up, and Devin told me not to break the circle, so I sat back down. I don't know why. I sat back down. I should have ran right then, and I know that now. I should have ran at the 3-minute mark when Kyle's nose started bleeding, and I still sat down instead. The ritual concluded. Devin finished the sequence at the 5-minute mark. For approximately 30 seconds after Devin stopped reading, nothing happened. Then both guys got sick. I want to be accurate about what the footage shows because accuracy matters here. Kyle vomited first, violently, without warning. Not the way that a sick person does, but the way a body trying to evacuate something does. Like a physical rejection from the inside out. He went to his hands and knees on the basement floor. Devin lasted about 40 seconds longer. Then the same thing started happening to him. Carly kept the camera on them. She told me later that she doesn't know why she kept filming it. And then she noticed something odd about their bodies. She told me, "I noticed Kyle's arms. The veins in his arms were visible through his shirt. through the fabric. I could see them through his shirt. And they were dark, not blue the way that normal veins look. Dark, almost black and like moving. And he was still speaking in that language, still on his hands and knees and still speaking continuously and not stopping to breathe. Devin stood up, and that's when I understood that what was happening to Devin was different than what was happening to Kyle. Kyle was fighting it. I could see him fighting it. His hands were shaking. He kept looking over at me. He was still in there, trying to get out. Devin stood up, and he wasn't fighting anything. He just stood up and looked at me. This is the part of the footage that I had the most difficulty watching. Devin standing up. The way he stood up, it was fluid. It was immediate. Like whatever was now occupying that body was not burdened by the weight of it. He turned and faced the camera. I'm going to let Carly describe what she saw because she was there and because she said that this is the part that she wanted to make sure I got right. His eyes were black. Not the pupils, the whole eye. Like the whites had filled in. Like something had turned the lights off behind them. The smell hit me at the same time I saw his eyes. Sulfur, like a struck match, but underneath it, it smelled like something rotten. While I was looking directly into the voids where his eyes once were, he smiled at me. I want to be very clear about this because people are going to say that I was scared and my mind was playing tricks on me. But I knew with complete certainty that what was smiling at me was not Devin. Devin was gone. Whatever had come through that board was wearing Devin. It was using his face to smile at me. It said my name in Devin's voice. And I ran. She dropped the camera when she ran. It was recording. She got out through the east window, the same one that they came through. She ran to the road. She flagged down a car and was taken to the nearest town, approximately 11 miles from that hospital. She called the police from a gas station payphone, and it was 1:47 a.m. She told the officers who responded that her two friends were inside the building and they needed help. She told them that they were very sick. She didn't tell them what made them sick. She told me later, I knew how it would sound. I needed them to go in there. I couldn't say what I actually saw. The officers responded to the building at 2:23 a.m. But Kyle and Devin were not found. The Ouija board was in the center of the basement floor. The camera had still been recording and the battery died at 3:11 a.m. The footage from the 47 minutes between when Carly ran and when the battery died is what she donated to my archive. I've watched it, and I'm not going to describe all of it, but I will tell you this. Kyle and Devin are visible in that footage for the first 19 minutes after Carly left the building, and then something shifted. Because whatever I saw in that basement for the remaining 28 minutes of the footage, it was not Kyle, and it was not Devin. And it was aware that it was on camera. Carly only watched the footage once, the night that she recovered the camera before she understood what she was watching. She has not watched it since. She donated it to my archive because she needed it out of her life. She said having it on her hard drive felt like keeping a door open that needed to be closed. She agreed to describe one specific moment from the footage. She said it was the moment that she needed people to understand. Not to frighten anyone, but because she said, people go into places like this thinking that it's an adventure. Thinking the worst thing that happens is that you get scared. I need them to understand what the worst thing actually is. About 10 minutes after I left, Kyle can be seen on the floor. He's on his back and he's still speaking in that language. His body was positioned in a way a human body would be impossible to bend in without multiple compound fractures. And Devin's body is standing over him. I say Devin's body because that's all that was left. Devin wasn't in there anymore. He wasn't doing anything, just standing over him. Kyle then reaches up. He reaches up towards Devin's face like he's asking for help. Like he still thinks that Devin is Devin. Devin's body leans down and it puts its hand on Kyle's chest. And Kyle stops speaking. Just stops, mid-sound, like a recording cut off. And then Kyle stands up. And he stands up the way that Devin stood up. Like he's not fighting anymore. She stops there. She couldn't continue past that point. We sat in the silence for a while, and then she told me. They were my friends. They were both my friends, and whatever came through that night, it didn't just take them. It used them. It wore them, and then, when it was done with them, it walked out the building with their bodies, and nobody knows where they went. Kyle and Devin have never been found. The official records list no evidence of foul play and no explanation for their disappearance. The hospital is still there in the 12 acres of the Ozark Forest. The county still has not developed it, and the locals still don't talk about it. And somewhere in the forest of Missouri, something's walking around in the world that was never supposed to be here.